So to make the toile for the brim, you're cutting 2 and sewing down the centre back of each one. Oh, she was get it right. Do a little bit of a back stitch there, and then 1 centimetre down the centre back, and back stitch there. Now, when you're doing toiles, you can use a cheaper thread. You can also use a longer stitch. Now, when you have done that, you can put a notch at the centre front on the outside. Same on the inside. And then putting the front to the back, you can put a notch on each side inside. Like that. And then the outside as well. So we've got the notches at the front. You match that up with the centre back and put a little notch at the side there, and ditto on the other side. Now, here's one I prepared earlier. So the seam at the centre back, we can do all sorts of things to tidy that up, but for the purposes of the toile, we're not going to worry too much. So we're just putting these centre fronts together, and make sure that the edges match all the way around. And so drop a pin across your seam line there, and then go to the side, pin into that notch there, centre back. Now with those back seams, you can have one going each way for the purposes of this, or you can split them out and press them, whichever you like. Just make sure that the edges are nice and close, nice on top of each other, and ditto there. Now you can then go ahead and put more pins in between, but because it's a toile, I'm not too fussed. Oh, that's not too neat, so I'll get rid of this little tag of fabric here, which is doing my heading. And we're just going to put that here under the machine, 1 centimetre as usual, and then just, oh, good work, Serena. So make sure that you have enough thread so that it doesn't unthread itself when it does the first stitch. And if you're finding that machine's labouring at all, it could be that it's run over a pin and suddenly it doesn't love you anymore. So just be aware that if the machine is chuntering or chugging or something, just check that your needle is sharp, because if you hit a pin with it, it'll misbehave. Now you can see I'm trying to do a nice even curve all the way around, and if I've cut it accurately, then it's going to be easier to sew it accurately, and it should come to those quarters nice and neat without bunching up. And just make sure that you're really concentrating your attention, sticking to that 1 centimetre there. Try not to run over your pins if you can avoid it. Now when you're making toiles, if you've got old sheets or anything that you don't need anymore, they're perfect for making toiles. You don't have to buy new calico. Stop there. And back to the centre back, make sure those edges are nice and together. Now for the purposes of this project, what I want to do now is I want to cut half of that centimetre off. So I'm just going to go all the way around and shorten that seam. This is where having a good pair of scissors really comes into its own. If your scissors are going blunt, there are some quite good sharpeners on the market you can get. Or you can get somebody to actually sharpen them for you. So set your machine on a nice big zigzag stitch. Each machine will behave differently, so if you need any help getting that done, now's a good time to learn how to do that. So for me, it's just push the button until I get nice and wide and drop the needle down, and try not to go over the seam line with your zigzag, just go over the seam allowance. Go all the way around. Okay, cut the thread and flip the thing inside out, and around about now the iron's telling me it wants to be used, so that's kind of a good sign. So we'll go over and just give it a quick press. Sorry, I'm not moving the camera for you, you just have to imagine me ironing this so it's nice and neatly nice and neatly pressed. And you're getting a nice continuous curve all the way around the outside, so just bear with me while I do that. Not very riveting television, is it? But we won't be long. Okay, nearly there. So take the time you need to get that pressed so that the brim's sitting nicely on top of itself and that the two sides are matching up well. And I'm coming back now. And around about now, I'm going to come back into my quarters and just pin at the quarters, but I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to put extra pins all over the brim, so holding the two sides together. So there's my notch, put a pin there, but put a few other pins throughout the brim, and that's going to hold those two sides together, and I'll show you why I'm doing that in a moment. There's another notch there. Where is that notch? There it is. And really it should look like a bit of a porcupine by the time you're done, because what we're going to do is we're going to do some of the, it's called welting, and you can see it on here. You can see those concentric lines there. We're just going to do some for practice here and just get you into the swing of doing that as well. So to do that properly, you don't want the fabric to be rippling and dragging under the machine, and the best way to stop that is just put in a forest of pins and just be pulling those out as we go along. I won't be showing you the whole thing because clearly it's going to take a little while, but it's well worth doing like this. So I would probably put double the amount of pins, maybe 3 times. But to start off, what I'd like to do is just go around inside that centimetre. Oh, no, we're not with zigzag. Get off you. Just inside that centimetre seam allowance, and just to make this into one thickness, like one piece of fabric, not 2. And I'll just put that pin down here for future reference. And so just pull that pin out, pop it down here, and every pin reduces the amount of ripple that will take place on the 2 layers as they go together. But this is just to make that inside edge right. Now, starting at the centre back. Starting at the centre back, what you need to do is just drop your foot down there, and we're just going to do a centimetre distance between them. You can make them closer, but for the purposes of this, I'm just going to go around, and I'm just watching that edge on that centimetre line and just feeding it through nice and evenly. And keeping that going. I'm just going to get you started on the second lot, and then I'm going to let you crack on from there by yourselves. The purpose of this is it adds a little bit of stiffness to the brim edge, but it also looks quite smart. And when you get to the centre back, just go a couple of centimetres beyond where you started. Lift up your foot, lift up your needle, come back, and I'm just going to use the edge of the foot as a guide. And
Serena won't do anything like that.
Sorry, I'm getting background noise from beautiful Sarah. So just going around and just using the edge of the foot to do the next line, and pull out the pins as you go. So that's a tiny bit less than a centimetre now with that. And nearly there, getting there. And just chunter a bit speedier. Thought I turned off the volume of that thing, so I do apologise. And there we go. So you just keep on going all the way around as many times as you need to.